Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is my next Afterthought review for Tell Your Tale Season 2, Section 2, Episodes 11 through 20. An interesting mix of episodes from the slice of life episodes all the way up to a confrontation with the new supervillain. So this, section? I don't really know what to call it. From Written in the Star Scouts to, oh, a new friend, really was a mix of just about everything. We had a couple episodes that were kind of just fun and just, cheerful or, just interesting in themselves. And we've had other episodes that were in some ways kind of heavy and definitely the big one, a confrontation with Allura in the episode 20. So, ooh. And a good portion of these episodes were either in and or around the board trot, which I think was a good move, because after all, we just magically created a theme park out of nowhere. I'm glad that we spent some time here, so overall, I like this section of episodes, and I think it's actually pretty good and introduced some interesting things, and looking forward to seeing them come to fruition in the future. So now onto each individual episode. It's Written in the Star Scouts. It's ooh, this was very significant to the bigger picture in some ways, because we finally get to see Sunny's mom, and she's just so nice and sweet and adorable, and I wish we got to learn more about her. And no, Sunny's mom, don't go. We want you to stay with Sunny. No. I've heard about theories and stuff about, what happened to her mom, and that maybe she has not passed on, shall we say. I honestly are not sure about that. It's kind of a difficult thing, because obviously being a children's show, they don't want to say it, but just because they haven't said it doesn't mean it didn't happen. I do think that she and Argyle have joined the big maritime bay in the sky. But regardless, it was cool to see Sunny's mom and what she was attempting to do, and not to mention just seeing Sunny as a kid. But at the same time, it was also kind of weird and awkward at the same time, especially for Zip, because I just love Zip in this episode, because parts of her are curious and are wondering what's going on, and the other part of her is just oh my gosh, my friend was just pulled into a book and is reliving her memories as a fool. All right, Zip, I can handle this. Everything's gonna be fine. Zip is totally the kind of pony that's gonna want to go do something. She doesn't want to just sit and wait and hope that things are gonna work out. She wants to go save her friend, but she can't do that here, and here she has to just literally just sit and just watch, Sunny go through her own memories. But Zip at the same time was actually pretty good in this episode, and that, yeah, she's curious, but she's also at the same time being focused on being there for her friend. And this episode was just so nice and touching, of mother and father and their daughter, and even though she may be gone, she'll always be watching you from the stars. It's oh, that was just so touching. But it definitely opens up some bigger picture things of who knows? Sure, the ponies were able to bring magic back without whatever Sunny's mom was looking for, but that doesn't mean that whatever Sunny's mom was looking for isn't important and couldn't be important in the future. So who knows? Maybe we'll be following Sunny's mom's steps, and maybe one way or another we'll find out what happened to Sunny's mom. So we shall see. But overall, I still really liked this episode. It was really touching. It had some fun moments in it, and overall, it was just a great episode, and I enjoyed it. So where the rainbows are made. Aw, this episode and that song just make me feel just so happy and just once that song gets in my head, it's there for hours, if not days, and I'm not unhappy about this, so I just love that song. It just makes you cheerful and happy, and I do get California Dreams vibe going on with this song, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I like that song too. This episode, I don't think it had any quote-unquote bigger picture things. It was just fun and cheerful and nice. Definitely in a show like this, I think it's really good to have those episodes from time to time, where it's this episode is just fun, or it just makes you feel good. And I do love Izzy's line, where they're looking down this giant, vortex where all the rainbows are being drawn into. Does every other pony want to go back to happy, singy, cloudy land? Actually, yes I do, Izzy, but we have to deal with this first, so this was a very interesting Zip episode where, yeah, Zip, in some ways, her curious, adventurous nature literally just jumps into things before she thinks about them. She learns that she shouldn't just, leap in with all fours, especially when you don't have any idea what this is or how this is gonna work out. And she also learns that she shouldn't try to handle things all by herself. Sure, she's, like the flyer pony in this group, but that doesn't mean that she has to face this thing alone. I loved Pip's line. It's like, you can't do this one on your own, Zip. And I was thinking, no, you can't. But the good news is, she doesn't have to. And it was just so cool seeing the three flying ponies all working together to overcome the storm and the vortex and to actually fix this problem. So overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It was just so cheerful. It had a lovely song in it. But at the same time, they were able to put in a really good moral. And Zip learned a lot in this episode. And it was just a fun, cheerful, happy episode. And I enjoyed it a lot. So, P plus P equals BFFS's. I don't know which is more harder, math or this texting lingo stuff. This was a surprising episode, but I actually really enjoyed it a lot because it was a huge turn for Posey because good things are finally starting to happen to Posey. Yay! Really, I wonder if the writers planned this all along and that, we're gonna be mean to Posey in the first season. So when all these good things happen to Posey in the second season, every pony's gonna be like, yay! I actually really liked this episode. It had a lot of interesting elements into it. I must admit, I did kind of like the peer pressure thing going on at the beginning. It's like, any pony who's any pony has one Posey. So you gotta go get one too, Posey. Because you don't want to be no pony, do you? Well, it's definitely something that kids and, well, everyone faces, so it's actually a good thing to kind of include. But of course, the main thing that's going on here is Posey and these friendship bracelets. And at first, Posey doesn't really understand how these friendship bracelets work and even forget that, they're friendship bracelets. You have to use them with friends, and she didn't come with friends, so that's why they're not working and she's not getting any of these charms. And again, I liked Izzy and Pip in this episode because they could just be like, oh, it's not working, oh, we're sorry, and all those sorts of things. Sure, we'll give you your money back. And even when Posey storms off and be like, fine, just keep it. Ugh. Pip doesn't have to help her. She could just let her walk off and be sad. But the reason she does go help her is because she actually is her friend. You didn't come with friends? Well, I know there's some pony that'd be willing to spend the day with you and help you get charms. It's like, oh, who's that? Me, silly! Yay! That was really nice. Obviously, the main six are exactly that. They're the main six. They're like the best group of friends ever, but that doesn't mean they're not friends with these other ponies and that they're not going to try to help them too. I know this isn't really the point of this episode, but somehow I like that point, even though I'm not entirely sure what that says. But I do like the fact that Pip took the time to actually help out one of her friends and made this day the best day ever. Yay! Until they almost lost the friendship bracelet in the ocean and Pip had to dive into the ocean after it. Roar! That was a great way to end that episode. Like, after all this time of getting the friendship bracelets and the charms and stuff, it's like, well, now it's sinking to the bottom of the ocean, but don't worry, I'll go save it. Roar! And then Posey cannonballs right on top of Pip. Again, it's not safe to cannonball on top of your friends, but it was a really funny moment, and I really liked it, because sure, they had, like, the best day ever at this amusement park, and it almost ended in horrible disaster, and they ended up in the ocean, but that's okay, it was still a fun time anyway, so, roar. So overall, I really liked this episode. It was just such a nice Pip and Posey moment, and it was just so nice seeing them just having a good time. It had a really good song in it, and I liked what it was trying to do. I think it accomplished it fairly well, and overall, it was a good episode, and I enjoyed it. So, roar. And the whole thing with things not going perfectly almost ties into the next episode of Swinging a Misty, where the episode starts off with our poor ponies falling over a waterfall! Ah! It's a good thing they were wearing life jackets this time, because this time they actually needed them! No! Falling off a waterfall is not exactly what people would use to describe a successful family vacation, but as Zip says, it was memorable. This was a nice family episode and a great Misty episode where it's like, yeah, Misty thinks that, oh, everything has to be perfect. We have to have like the perfect moments and the perfect memories, and I have to capture them all on film. And in some ways, I almost think she's so dedicated to this that she's keeping the camera intact and almost on frame while she's falling off a waterfall. I may be plummeting off a waterfall, but I have to save the camera. as a videographer, it's like, now that's dedication. Okay, perhaps not quite, but I still like that thought. So overall, I really like this episode because, yeah, Misty learns that, you know, it's not about being perfect or having things even going well. It's just about spending time with your family and making these great memories. And yeah, sure, some of these memories were slightly dangerous, but even so, there was still the good things that you could see with them. It's like, sure, we fell off a waterfall, but everyone was okay, and you know what? It was actually kind of fun. Maybe? The better example was the cracklewood. Sure, we accidentally lit these sticks on fire that basically in some ways turned out to be like firework sticks, and we all had to take cover. But it was still a nice moment, and the fireworks were actually lovely, so in the end, it was actually a nice moment for every pony. So, and I must admit, the magic of editing saves us once again, but in some ways, that was kind of the point, is that sure, if you look at the thing as a whole, you could say like, oh man, this trip was a disaster, but if you look at the really good bits, you could find like, there were these great moments that we're gonna remember forever. So, and another interesting thing is that Pip mentions like, you know, we might be sisters one day, and it's like, I keep forgetting that part. So yeah, if Alphabet'll marries Queen Haven, then Pip, Zip, and Misty are all gonna be sisters, so that could be something interesting and exciting to look forward to in the future. So overall, I think this episode was actually pretty good. It was a great family episode, and overall, I enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing more family episodes of all these characters in the future. So an emotional roller coaster, both literally and metaphorically. So, as someone who kinda does deal with fear and anxiety from time to time, I totally identify with this episode, and in some ways I'm almost passionate about this episode because I really haven't seen an episode like this before. And honestly, I could make almost a whole video on just this, so I'm just gonna say that they handle this in a way that I've never seen any other episodes handle this before. They handled it exactly the right way. They actually gave, like, Misty's fear and anxiety almost a pony soda that's almost like just following her around that she feels like she can't get rid of. But once she takes charge and doesn't let the fear control her, then everything turns around and boom. So good for you, Misty. And of course, in true MLP tradition, is like once her friends find out what's going on, you didn't think that we were gonna let you face your fears alone, did you? Of course not. In some ways, that was the thing that Misty was the most afraid of, and that's what makes fear and anxiety stuff so difficult. That often it's not the roller coaster that she's really scared of. She's afraid that if her friends see that she's scared, they're gonna think that she's, you know, like, oh, you're just a wimpy pony, and yeah. But that's not what happens at all. They actually come and support her and are there for her. So this episode handled a very difficult, heavy topic in a very effective way, but at the same time without making this feel like a big, hard, difficult episode, because not only does she triumph in the end, she's doing so with the help of her friends, which is totally the MLP way. So overall, this was a great episode, and I would almost recommend this episode to anyone who's dealing with fear and anxiety. So this was a great Misty episode and a great episode overall, and I really enjoyed it. So, Hall of Marers. This is actually kind of almost a mix of a fun episode and somewhat of a character episode as well, because it's mostly just fun. It's them kind of lost in this fun house, and oh boy, is this a fun house. There's almost moments where it's like, this might be a little bit too much, or maybe this is a little dangerous, so, And I did like how Hitch had to like face, I'll call them the falling stones again, but instead of actually trying to get through them, he just uses his Earth Pony powers and just, you know, vines over them. So it's like, I did this once, I'm not doing it again. So this episode was actually primarily about Sparky and Hitch, and that, yeah, that Sparky, he's still a baby, but he is actually growing up a little bit. And there was a great moment at the beginning of this episode where we actually got to see the future grown-up Sparky, which I can't decide if we're actually going to see that in the future, because for that to happen, Sparky's going to have to grow up pretty fast, but you never know in this series, so wrong. But in any case, yeah, but what this episode is really about is Hitch and Sparky, and that, yeah, he's growing up and that Hitch has to, in some ways, let go just a little bit and let Sparky do stuff, that he can't just be like, oh no, Sparky, don't do that, and, leap over and, knock him out of the way and stuff. And that sometimes, yeah, he has to let Sparky do stuff. I do have to admit that, yeah, Sparky is still at the age where you have to be like, no, don't do that, that's dangerous. But at the same time, Hitch has to let him do stuff himself and like, here, you do this. And that can obviously be hard for any parent because, yeah, you want to be there for your kid and you don't want them to get hurt. But at the same time, you have to let them do stuff on their own. Otherwise, they'll never learn. They'll never be able to do things by themselves and they'll never grow up. So that's not good. Ooh, I just had an interesting thought. This kind of ties in with what happens with Sunny, because when she realizes that they're missing, her first thought is, oh, I gotta go find them. Then she kind of stops and thinks a little bit and says, or help them find me. That actually, I think, really ties into what I think this episode's trying to do, which is that, you know what? Sometimes, yeah, you shouldn't just rush in and just save them. Sometimes you have to just, help them and trust that they're going to be able to save themselves. So, and that was just such a sweet little moment with Hitch and Sparky just like, sleeping next to each other and stuff. It was like, oh, that was just so nice. And it was nice to see all the three characters coming together and seeing Sparky being able to do his own thing. And even there was this kind of interesting, quote-unquote, dialogue between Hitch and Sparky. And so this was actually a pretty good episode. And this episode did have a pretty okay song. I mean, I don't think it'll be going on any of my favorites list, but it was actually pretty good. And this was definitely a very good episode for Hitch and Sparky. And overall, I enjoyed it. And it was just so touching. And I look forward to seeing more and seeing what happens next with Hitch and Sparky. So, roar! Next, Tiny Trot, where all our characters are turned into fools! Again! Ah! But the good news is this time they're actually pretty happy about it. So, roar! This episode actually is pretty good, where all the characters get turned into foals again in the Tiny Trot, and they're just so adorable as like little babies and stuff. Aww. There's parts of me that are like feel kind of bad for being quote-unquote such a downer on this episode, because it is really nice and sweet, but as an adult, it kind of feels like this is a nice idea, but maybe this is going just a little bit too far. It kind of reminds me of the Friendship is Magic episode where Starlight Glimmer and Sunburst are basically trying to rekindle their friendship and like remembering their time as foals. Sunburst actually, let's play this board game that we played as kids. So, sure, it's great playing board games to sort of like remember the old times, but turning yourself back into a foal might be a little bit too much. So, even so, this episode definitely was a cute episode, and as a reactor was definitely very fun. And take cover, we're under attack by, flying teddy bears? And after going back through this episode, I noticed that there was actually something kind of funny, that at least one of the plushies was a Pip plushie, so Pip is being pelted with her own plushie, so, oh, the irony! I really liked this episode. It was very cute, and there were some very fun moments with the foals. Sky, who's just like awkwardly looking at his co-anchor being like, oh, my co-anchor's a foal. They didn't prepare me for this at film school, so, Still, overall, this was a fun, lighthearted episode, and it was really cute and nice, and had some really nice, cute moments between Sparky and Hitch. So overall, this was actually a pretty good episode, and I enjoyed it. So, roar. So that went to Sleepover, the obligatory sleepover episode that has to be in every girls show, because it wouldn't be a girls show without a sleepover episode. So, roar! At the same time, sleepovers are great, they're fun for everyone, so yay! I mean, this episode was actually interesting on two fronts. We got to see Posey invited to a sleepover at the Crystal Bright House. Posey has a completely different idea for what a sleepover is. All these other ponies are excited about doing the classic sleepover activities like pillow fights and makeovers, and Posey's getting ready for bed. But we just got started. You can't go to bed now. Sacrilege. After thinking about it, yeah, Posey is, in some ways, I would almost say more quote-unquote grown up and mature than the other ponies. While all the other ponies are like, sure, sleepovers, pillow fights, yay! Posey is more like, a pillow fight? Are you serious? Of course, that's fine. But in the end, they actually found ways to include Posey and have Posey actually enjoy the sleepover. And overall, every pony had a great time. And that leads to the second thing about this episode that was kind of interesting, was that the Crystal Bright House is actually participating participating in the sleepover, and it's using its like transfiguration powers to create all this stuff and, you know, make these robes and, you know, this parkour course and the chocolate fountain. And it's like, that was just so nice, Crystal Brighthouse. Thank you. But obviously, bigger picture wise, then again, it's like the Crystal Brighthouse is becoming Casita from Encanto. It's developing magic powers and almost a mind of its own. And considering that, yeah, there's all this friendship magic flying around all over the place, it's practically the center and the source almost in some ways of the friendship magic. It kind of makes sense that as the magic of friendship is growing throughout Equestria, so is the Crystal Brighthouse's not only magic abilities, but even just abilities to, you know, in some ways make choices of its own and all that. So, and overall, I think that's really exciting and I liked that. And it was just so sweet. It's like at the end, Sunny is actually talking to and thanking the Crystal Brighthouse, and the Crystal Brighthouse is tucking her in. It's like, oh, that was just so sweet. Aww. So it's going to be interesting to see how and perhaps even if that's going to develop. Overall, this was actually a pretty okay sleepover episode, and in some ways is a shocker for My Little Pony, where we had a sleepover episode where nothing went horribly wrong. Yay! It has seemed to be the tradition that in sleepover episodes in MLP and most other series that something has to go horribly wrong, because it would be a boring show if it didn't. So, but I'm really glad that Posey got to enjoy the sleepover. Nothing went horribly wrong. Every pony had a great time, and I'm interested to see what happens with the Crystal Brighthouse and its magic abilities in the future. So overall, this was a great fun episode. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing in some ways more episodes like this with Posey and the main six in the future. So, a comet lands in a smoothie shack and then flattens it into a million pieces. Oh no, wait, wrong show. But yeah, this was actually a surprising episode, but totally makes sense and almost shows the double-edged sword of having a bigger, like, smoothie shack. It's gotten so big that Sunny can't really run it by herself anymore. But fortunately for her, Comet comes along and is like, oh, I'll help, come on, pick me, pick me, pick me. At first, Sunny is thrilled by this until she sees that, you know, he's running the smoothie cart basically without her, and he's moved everything around without asking her, and she's like, are we out of straws? It's like, no, they're over there. Did you move everything? To the point where, you know, inflappable Izzy is starting to get worried and is being like, uh-oh, this might get messy. But I actually really like the way that Sunny handled this. She was very, quote-unquote, diplomatic. She has every reason to be mad and just be like, roar at Comet, but she takes a breath, she thinks it over for a moment, and then basically calmly says to him, I know that you're trying to help, but how do you expect me to run my smoothie cart if I don't know where anything is? You know, I like that. That was her in some ways being Sunny. Instead of just being angry and mad, let's calmly resolve this without getting any pony's feelings hurt, because I know we can talk this out and fix this. That wasn't the point of this, but that was a really Sunny moment, and I liked that. Because after a little bit of encouragement with Izzy, we can work this out. We just have to find the right way for us to work together. And once they do, they create something amazing. They're actually like combining like their cutie mark magic together in almost a cutie mark bonding moment. So they're not only blending the fruit, they're blending like their talents and abilities and their magic and their friendship and stuff together too. So I kind of like that. So yeah, overall this episode was actually pretty good. I mean, Sunny got some help in her smoothie shack, Comet got basically a job and a role in Maritime Bay, and it was just so nice seeing these two come together and, you know, find a way to work together. And overall, it was a good episode and I look forward to seeing more. And now the big one, Allure's return in Oh, a New Friend, which unfortunately really wasn't a friend because it's just Allure hiding out in the cave. No! Run, Izzy, run! This episode was kind of sad in the end, but it was so good to see an Allura episode because it's been a while since we've seen her in the Blocky Walkies, and I would like to think that she hasn't just simply been sitting in this cave and sulking all this time, so no! Allura's a little upset over the destruction of the Nova Charm, so when she has, I think what was a great line, you know, the only thing that's not terrible about this cave is that no ponies. And then Izzy just comes walking in with the fruit basket. She's probably thinking, oh no, a pony! Not only that, it's the pony that destroyed the Nova Charm! Run, Izzy, run! she's a little bit upset and angry that the Nova Charm is no more, because now it means that she's basically stuck here. This is almost a whole video in itself, but it kind of feels like she's basically giving up, which might be part of her thing of her character, which is why she might need a character like Twitch to kind of like keep her motivated, to keep her going. The Nova Charm, the only thing that could help me get out of here and go home, is destroyed, so I'm just gonna go sit in the cave and sulk. That's a topic in some ways for another video, but yeah, I think that Allura is quote-unquote giving up too easily, but it also kind of shows that she's not really a true supervillain, because if she was, she'd already be taking over Maritime Bay. As we see in this episode, that she has some very formidable magic powers. I almost like to think is she has almost Gundam level magic. It's, okay, she's powering up, and oh my gosh, it's like, bye Celestia, we're all doomed! I say that because in Gundam Wing, the 01 beam rifle cannon, it was just so ridiculously powerful that, okay, a beam rifle! And then you see it fire and it generates this giant beam that's like 200 feet wide that destroys everything it touches for like the next mile and a half. So I knew this was gonna be bad, but I had no idea this was gonna be total obliteration! This was a reminder of how powerful and yeah, dangerous Allura can be. But at the same time, it's interesting to note that yeah, it's like she could do far worse things to Izzy, because she basically just wipes her memory and just shoves her out the door and be like, here, get lost. Kind of reminds me of a line from a show called Oban Star Racers. It's like, get lost, I'm trying to be sad. And that's why I think like this episode is really sad, because after Allura's had enough of the quote-unquote Izzy loop, it's like, that's it, it's time to deal with her so she can never bother me again. Ugh! What Allura really wants at this moment is like, she just wants Izzy to go away and leave her alone. The interesting thing is that Izzy's totally willing to do that. I mean, once like the Izzy loop gets broken, she's just like, okay, fine, I'll leave and I'll promise to never come back. She's willing to respect Allura's wishes, but in this instance, that Allura doesn't give her the chance to, so and then after she throws the other ponies out, she's basically seals herself away. And it was actually pretty interesting that we get to see it from both perspectives. We start with the ponies watching Allura sealing herself in, and then we flip around and we watch Allura seeing the other ponies basically disappear behind the ice wall that she's creating. So it was interesting to note that Pip and Zip are kind of like, grrr, which after everything that just happened, I'm not surprised by. But Izzy's almost kind of like sad to be like, no, Allura, don't seal yourself away. I'm sorry. For a character like Allura, I'm just sad. I just want ponies to leave me alone. So just get out and don't come back. And then she seals herself away. It's like, aw, that's sad. But I definitely feel they're going to be, you know, going for redemption arc at some point in the future. But there were some other interesting things that were going on with the other ponies. A lot of other people have commented that, oh, Izzy says love you as she's running away with the fruit baskets. And I think that's kind of nice. I don't know if it's really that big of a deal, because this is like the best group of friends ever. And clearly they love each other because they've been together all this time and they have such a great and strong friendship. So in some ways that doesn't really surprise me, but it was a really nice thing for Izzy to say though. So, roar. And I like how other ponies have pointed out that, yeah, that the other ponies are actually being very supportive of Izzy. They're actually preparing more fruit baskets for her. They don't know why, but Izzy just keeps coming back and asks us for a fruit basket. So we're gonna just make more, or maybe they're just replacing the ones that Izzy has been taking because they're pretty much out of them. And in fact, I think they pretty much have used basically every piece of fruit in Maritime Bay for all these fruit baskets. So I almost feel like the sub point of this Izzy loop and the fruit baskets was to just simply give all this fruit to Allura so that she'll be able to survive being sealed away in the cave until the next time we see her, maybe another 10 episodes from now. So, probably not, but an interesting thought nonetheless. Another interesting thing is that once Izzy is quote-unquote broken out of the Izzy loop, she realizes that, oh my gosh, this is Allura? And even after her friends remind her, it's like, oh, you should stay away from her. She's very dangerous. She really is like, you're right, but when has that ever stopped us before? But more importantly, she's also, if this is Allura and she's upset about me for destroying the Nova Charm, so I should definitely bring her some fruit to try to apologize. Yay! She could be like, you know what, you're right. Allura's dangerous. She did all these horrible things to the Aurora Corns, and I didn't mean to destroy the Nova Charm. Why should I apologize to her for? And of course, the reason why Izzy does apologize to her, because she's Izzy. She's, you know, she doesn't want ponies and creatures to be upset and angry and stuff, and she generally probably does feel bad about what happened with the Nova Charm, and she just wants to apologize and hopefully fix this with Allura and maybe even be friends, but sadly, Allura doesn't feel the same way, and she just wants Izzy to leave her alone, and, you know, to the point where she throws her out and just seals herself away in an ice cave, so, no. But knowing this series, it's probably not gonna end there, and we will be seeing more of Allura in the future. I look forward to learning more about Allura, her motivations, why is she doing this, and looking forward to seeing where she and her character goes in the future. So, roar! So overall, this section of episodes was actually pretty good. It had some fun episodes, some kind of heavy episodes, some character episodes, some fun, cheerful episodes. So it had a little bit of mix of everything. There was a fair number of songs, and they're actually all pretty good. I actually kind of like in some ways, the level of songs that are going on. I mean, there was a fair number of new songs, and I don't know if we're going to be hearing them a lot, because they're almost in some ways specific to that particular episode, like, you know, Where the Rainbows Are Made and Hall of Marers. Although at the same time, you know, the Hall of Marers song, it's like, we're lost, we're lost. They could use that somewhere in the future, but in any case, I think it is nice to hear a lot more new songs and not just see them recycling a lot of the old ones. And they were all pretty good, and overall, this section of episodes was pretty good. It had a mix of everything. It moved some of the bigger picture stuff along. We finally got to see something with Allura, but at the same time, still had some fun, entertaining episodes. So overall, I actually really enjoyed this section of episodes and Tell Your Tale as a whole, and I look forward to seeing more. So, roar! So that is the end of my AfterThoughts review of Tell Your Tale Season 2, Section 2, Episodes 11 through 20. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you for commenting, liking, subscribing, and until next time, this is Blue Star. Stay strong, and pony on. Blue Star out.